Hey cats, it's Ed, Chunky Kit Kat Bud here, powered by running and clean living only. Thanks for tuning in and prepare yourself for a really big show today. I got the HOKA ROCKET X2 in hand. I'm going to compare it up against some of the other super shoes I've enjoyed over the last 12 months. We got the typical competitors here, you know them. The Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2, the ADIZERO Adios Pro 3, and the Nike ZOOMX Vaporfly Next% 3. Going to analyse the uppers, examine the midsoles, and evaluate the outsoles too. Let's not forget that. Let's dive into the wealth of cushion available here to help you decide which one is best for you. Let's go. Thanks for tuning in, people. It is always appreciated. Hit the subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications. Also, if you're enjoying the content on the channel, give this video a thumbs up, like it really helps out. You know it makes sense. We're comparing the ROCKET X2 from HOKA up against some of the other competitors today. Let's get down to the nitty gritty with those stats. All of these are Euro 46, although sizings are a little weird on the HOKA. The ADIDAS, Nike and Puma shoes all come in true to size for me and a UK 11. Though with the HOKA I've gone for a UK 11.5. That just seems to give me an extra little bit of length, which is required in HOKA shoes for me. I would advise on sizing up at least a half if you go for the ROCKET X2. Weights, though not deal breakers, are something people are interested in for race shoes. On screen now, outsole pickers. The Vaporfly is easily the lightest by well over half an ounce to the Puma. Though you have to be honest, guys, the Vaporfly is a good ounce lighter than the Adidas and HOKA shoes in today's comparison. Very similar short A durometer scores here for all of the midsoles. All the shoes come in under the average rating of 28 that I've recorded over all of the shoes within my whole running collection. ZOOMX being the softest, though the HOKA and Puma shoes are really extremely soft as well. I mean, I wouldn't get too hung up on this softness business. Softness may in fact be the reverse of what you actually need. You might want something a little bit firmer, more responsive if you're going for a race shoe. If you're doing a marathon and you want that extra cushion, I can understand, but perhaps for the 5, 10k or even half marathon you might want something a little firmer. Some super shoes work really well across all the distances, others not so much. In terms of stack, the Vaporfly is the more aggressive here with an 8mm drop. The Puma a little less towering with its 14mm heel height. The Adidas and HOKA shoes both opt for a more conservative 5mm drop from heel to toe. Okay, I'm going to rate these on 4 different categories: the upper fit, the midsole cushion, the outsole traction, and then also a score for value for money. What do you actually get for the money? 4 points for the winner and 1 point for the one in last place. Kicking it off with the uppers first. A bit of a weird one in the upper, it has to be said. It can be superb if you take a little bit of time to actually lace the shoe up, get the tension just right. I think if you wear it at a certain point in the day, perhaps later in the day when your foot's swollen a little bit, then you'll probably be fine. But I found in the morning, as you start to run in the shoe, it can start to be a little over tight sometimes. I think it's something to do with these strange lace loops that they've incorporated here in the first 2 eyelets. They just don't really work all that well for me. The laces too are very coarse, they don't stretch an awful lot. I think that's half the problem as well. So maybe you could sub out the laces, maybe get a slightly better fit. But when you're paying $220 for a super shoe, do you really want to be messing around like that? With the Adidas, it's just a bit of a step back from the original Adios Pro and the V2. They were both fantastic in the upper. The Vaporfly Next% 3 is as open as Cheddar Gorge in the toe box. It's a little like you're lost in a closed down Debenhams department store. It's big up here. It may be great for you if you've got a slightly more voluminous forefoot. I do not really. I think if your toes are the size of large butcher's sausages, then you'll be loving the Vaporfly Next% 3. All of the Vaporfly Next% models have been a little bit weird in terms of the actual sizing. The V1 was kind of quite tight and restrictive in the toe box, the V2 very large, and this one is following suit. I'm still not convinced as well about the tongue. Apparently needs an instruction manual to actually position it correctly so that you don't get any lace pressure on the edges here. Lock from the laces is good. I can't really say I've had a uncomfortable feeling in it, but I still think it's not as good as the Vaporfly 4% Flyknit. That was an excellent upper. The HOKA and the Puma shoes are really good in terms of the actual lockdown credentials, though if you need heel support, the HOKA is not the one to choose. Got to be really careful on sizing as well with this one. Though I am liking the very simple design, the very light overlays there. It's just mesh really, with a few supporting structures inside. This one though is simplicity itself, a lesson in great design. You put your foot in, tighten the laces, tie the bow, and you're done. No messing around, and the tongue stays exactly where it needs to be. There's some good cushioning here in the back of the shoe, and I feel that the heel counter is ample, just really amplifies the fit. It's just a nice simple design. 1 point then for the ADIZERO Adios Pro 3, 2 points for the Vaporfly Next Percent 3, 3 points for the HOKA, not really any issues so far on the upper, and 4 points for the upper for the excellently designed Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2. Midsole now. I think this is all down to the type of cushion that you actually need. Perhaps I'll look at this from like a marathon or half marathon perspective first, and then perhaps talk about some of the other popular race distances too. I think the Adios Pro 3 and the Puma are by far the most stable of all four shoes in today's comparison. The Puma is a little lower in stack, and oddly the plate doesn't feel anywhere near as present, I suppose, and it's also got the least of the actual midsole material chopped out here underfoot. So it gains stability a little bit, but there's a slight lack of propulsion, I suppose, due to that. The Adios Pro 3 is more stable than the V1 and 2 that came before it, though there is quite a bit of material that's cut out of the shoe around the arch area. Doesn't feel perhaps as engaging or as aggressive as the V1 or 2. I mean, that could be fine if you just want to roll on to victory using that very prominent rocker. These two shoes, though, just want to go quick. I think the nature of the foams that are used, they're both Pebax based foams here, aren't really suited to sort of recovery or easy running. You want to turn the pace, tempo and above really. Those 1 kilometer reps I was doing the other day at 5k effort felt fantastic in the HOKA. I've done the same in the Vaporfly Next Percent 3 as well. Feels really good. Even down a sort of marathon pace, it just makes it almost easily sustainable. The HOKA though isn't quite the stable beasts as we have in the Puma and ADIDAS shoes. That soft foam does come at a price. Doesn't feel quite as propulsive either as the Vaporfly Next Percent 3. Might be down to that forked plate that we've got here in the midsole. Perhaps it just isn't transferring the forward motion as much, I don't know. Just doesn't perhaps feel quite as focused as this one. At faster efforts like 10k and 5k effort, the Vaporfly is the best, which probably makes it, in terms of the midsole, the most versatile of all four shoes on today's video. I think if you want to buy a midsole that's going to work for all sorts of different paces, and you can use it in training too, then the Puma's probably the better option. But I think if you're shelling out that amount of money on something that's going to get the best out of you perhaps, then I think the Vaporfly Next Percent 3 midsole is still the king. Though I did experience more break-in miles required in this version of the shoe than I have done before. Tied in third place, 1.5 points for the Adios Pro 3, and 1.5 also for the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2, 3 points for the HOKA ROCKET X 2, and maximum 4 points for the Vaporfly Next Percent 3 for the midsole. So scores so far, 2.5 points for the Adios Pro 3, Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2 with 5.5 points, the Vaporfly Next Percent 3 with 6 points, and the HOKA ROCKET X 2 with 6 points. Outsole now. This is close between two of the shoes, the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2 and the Adios Pro 3. The Continental stuff and the Puma grip here just are unmatched. The Adios Pro 3 here, after 100 miles, showing almost no wear whatsoever on the outsole rubber. There's about 100 kilometers on the Puma shoe, and that shows no wear whatsoever either. Don't be thinking there's wear back here, it's just the colour of the actual rubber, it doesn't actually have any wear. Both of these operate really well in wet and dry conditions on road and pavement. HOKA's looking pretty good, though I'm only sort of at the start of my testing really. The rubber here does look a little bit similar to what you find on the outsole of the Nimbus 25. That high abrasion stuff. I don't know if it's the same. People don't really tend to put too much about the rubber aside from Saucony. They got some really interesting codes they use. There's no shedding or worn areas yet, and I wouldn't expect there to be really. Good grip so far across the Adios Pro 3, the Puma and the HOKA here. On cornering they're really great. Now the Next Percent 3 I'm actually really disappointed in terms of the rubber durability. Let's try and point it out for you here. There is some rubber shedding already. I think there's about 36 miles on these. That's really poor. You know, Nike have reduced the amount of rubber in terms of the thickness, but it is going to wear down. I mean, the waffles work great, but they're starting to wear away already. Remember as well, I run on roads and pavement. I don't run on treadmills or anything like that. So I would assume the majority of people are running on road and pavement in these. So that's what they want to hear about. So 1 point for the outsole in terms of the Vaporfly Next Percent 3. 2 points for the HOKA, as there's a huge amount of rubber here really. Is it all needed for a race shoe? 3 points for the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2 outsole. And 4 points top marks for the Adios Pro 3 outsole. Onto a more subjective area now, that of value for money. I think if you want the lightest race shoe going, the top of the tree, just the most nimble shoe that you can get, the Vaporfly Next Percent 3 does have a little bit of an edge over everything else. Yes, it's that bit more expensive, but I think it still takes some beating. It is nimble, but I foresee the same old durability issues as we've had in previous versions of the shoe. Not perhaps from the foam this time, but from that very thin outsole rubber slither. It's going to shred up pretty quickly. That might put people off from actually using this shoe in their training. It's kind of built-in faults really, but in terms of the outsole, it's not a patch on the others. Road and concrete only for this one. Now the HOKA is a quality shoe. The Rocket X2 has come out and I think it's won over quite a few people. They've raised the bar, it's that little bit lighter, it's certainly nimble, very cushioned underfoot, though it doesn't quite have that same out and out aggressive feel as the Vaporfly. Also the very flexible heel area is going to mean this shoe just isn't an option for some people. Kind of like an all or nothing type shoe, and when you're talking 220 quid, I think that's probably one that some people won't want to gamble with. Somewhat more of a niche shoe, so I think at 220 in terms of value for money, it's probably only worth 1 point. Now, the Adios Pro 3 offers some incredible durability here and outsole grip. I think if the upper works for you out the box, then great, though this one is very much a marathon shoe for me now, and perhaps not even one I consider down to like a 10k. I think the V2 was just that little bit more versatile, so if you're after a marathon shoe, I think you can go much worse than this. The Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2 sticks out like a sore thumb here. That midsole stack's a little lower, less rigid, perhaps more useful as a trainer and racer in your rotation. It is noticeably cheaper as well. It's about £60 cheaper in fact than the Vaporfly Next Percent 3. Perhaps a little bit more usable on a more frequent basis, but it doesn't have that long-range propulsion of the Vaporfly or perhaps even the HOKA. Certainly a more conventional shoe though, and I can see this one working out for more people. Perhaps if you're not so experienced with a carbon plated shoe, I mean, it's still very forgiving and very cushioned. It feels quick, but perhaps not quite as quick as the others. I think in a world where money's pretty short at the moment, £220 is a lot of money to spend. I would recommend testing all of these shoes out on foot if you have that option. The differences between each of them are very subtle, and I think you have to really get to know some of the shoes to actually experience some of those differences. In terms of durability, like quality and usability and the price, it's pretty hard to sort of put points on some of these. I've gone with 1 point for the Rocket X2, 2 points for the Adios Pro 3, the Puma with 3 points, but still best of the best for racing. I feel the Vaporfly Next Percent 3 is worthy of 4 points for that value for money. If you want the best, then I think you'll get the best for your money. If you want that balance between performance and weight, this is still the most versatile of the super shoes between 5k and the marathon. Overall scores then, here we go. I think I've added them up correctly. In fourth place with 8.5, we've got the ADIZERO Adios Pro 3 from ADIDAS. Just marginally ahead of that, in third place, we have with 9 points the HOKA ROCKET X2. In second position with 11 points, we have the Nike ZOOMX Vaporfly Next Percent 3. Top spot overall with 11.5, we have the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2. So just numbers here really, people, trying to put some sort of tier list together. There's very little in it now though between the super shoes. You might find that one works better for you and it might not work at all for someone else. I think there's one for everybody out there perhaps for your requirements, but sometimes it's not easy to pick that one out. What's your pick? What's been working for you in your training and racing? Let me know down in the comments. So that's where I feel the HOKA ROCKET X2 lies in these 4 shoes today. I will do a part 2 on this one very soon. Very quick musical interlude for you. Bit of a slow burnout album, The Car by Arctic Monkeys. The more and more I've listened to it, the more I've enjoyed it. The best track for me is the track The Car. It does sound like some sort of early 70s detective mystery theme tune. Perfect weather, in fact, for it at the moment. There's a bit of rain and wind, those grey skies out there, sort of midweek, lost in time kind of feel, where things feel a little out of place. You can't quite put your finger on what the issue is. Quite a few tracks on that Arctic Monkeys album, in fact, sound like that. Maybe they were going for that exact vibe, who knows? Go and check it out, The Car by Arctic Monkeys. Thanks for tuning in, people. Hope you enjoyed today's video as much as I did making it. Hit that subscribe button, click the bell below for notifications. Also give this video a thumbs up like and share it with your running buddies. My name's Eddbud and I'll be seeing you maybe in Boston.